Welcome to Fight to Fix with Fix My Oculus, the series where we turn tech troubles into triumphs. Today, on Fight to Fix, we're tackling a common gamer's gripe, stick drift. Are you fed up with fighting against your own controller? Looking for a wallet-friendly fix that you can do yourself? Well, you're in the right place. So grab your tools and let's get started. So here, as you can see, I have a plastic pry tool, I've got tweezers, and I've got this T5 Torx screw bit in this Strabetto screwdriver I bought off of Amazon. These kits are like $10. They're super cheap, super reliable, super great. So what I'll typically do first here is we'll pull out the little sticker in the battery compartment. So you want to take off that battery cover and little center point where you can kind of poke a hole to get it out easier. If that's easier for you, that's usually what I do. It makes the repair process a little quicker. I kind of just shovel my tweezers underneath it. Like I kind of just get it under there, pry it out, pull it out, and we continue with that. There's going to be about 4 screws underneath this sticker here that you'll pull out once you get the sticker off. Sometimes when you peel off that sticker that's in the battery compartment, you get a little bit of residue left over, or a little bit of extra sticker that doesn't come with it, just because the stickers are terrible. I just pull it all the way out, just get rid of it. It's just much easier to do it that way than try and put it back on. Alright, so continuing on though, let's get all 4 of these screws out of the battery cage. I usually like to start from the bottom up, make sure that I get all 4 screws out before continuing with the rest of the controller. And next up, we got to pull this plate off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shove that pry tool in the bottom of the controller, basically right on the edge there. There's a little gap you'll see. And you want to be careful and mindful of these pegs. It's kind of just fit by tolerance. It's just kind of fit by... the adhesive really isn't doing that much. It's kind of just fit by force. You know, it's just stuck in there. So when you pry it off, you want to make sure that you're not breaking off those tips, because they can break off pretty easily, those pegs. Now we're on the top of the controller, the front plate. I'll show you here as I'm pulling these screws out. Typically I'll start with these big ones. Oh, I think I missed one of the screws on the battery cage. I'm showing you all the mistakes that some people do. And the one thing too is if you miss a screw, it's going to be a lot tougher. You'll notice when taking the different component or different pieces off of the shell of the controller that it's really hard to get off, and you'll notice, oh, hey, I left a screw in here. So you don't want to break the controller in that way when you're taking it apart. So I'm going to start with these screws here for the ring. There's 4 on the top, so there's 4 for 2 on each side of the ring. And the ring kind of just peels off. You'll see here later in the clip. And it's easiest to kind of just get the joystick out of the way too. I just pull that off. That way I can kind of maneuver my screwdriver around a little easier and get to the screws that I need to. So I pull that off here and then just take off these screws for the ring. And the next part you'll see here, those 2 holes in the middle above right below the spring and right above the Y. You'll see on there on the controller, right above the Y button. Those holes you don't want to screw a screw back into. And I'll mention that again later. They're like this, the death hole. You screw it back, you take a screw and screw it in there. You'll basically drill a hole in the motherboard inside the controller. So you don't want to do that. Just try and avoid that. It's pretty easy to accidentally make that mistake because it does look like a hole that a screw should go into when putting the controller back together. And if I'm doing a repair that doesn't have significant ring damage, I typically just avoid these 2 screws. You don't have to take them out. They don't go through the board or through the... it really just connects that outer ring. So these 2 screws, I don't really unscrew. It's a time saver when you're doing a ton of controllers all at once. Of course, you can take all the screws out. It's not going to matter if you're nervous or you forget which ones I'm pointing out here. So the first thing that some people may think is, oh, I want to take this grip off now that I've gotten everything loose. No, the ring has to come off first. The ring always has to come off first because it's kind of holding that piece in it, even though it doesn't immediately look like it. It is. So we're going to take the ring off. Usually, so if it's a left controller, you'll want to start on the left, the inner side of the controller, or the outer side, I guess, if you're holding it in your left hand. So the left side of the controller when you're looking down on it, right there. So you'll kind of unclip it, and it pulls off around the ring on the top of the controller. It should come off fairly easy. You have to use a little force to get it unclipped from the right side typically, but it should come off fairly easily with the click. It is easy to break those pegs once again, so you want to be kind of mindful. of those pegs there. But that's the first, probably one of the hardest steps, is getting the actual ring off. It's not that hard, I guess, but it can be a little bit challenging if it's your first time repairing a controller. Next is this piece here, the side piece, the grip. You'll kind of just take your thumb and peel it to the side. It should come off super easy if you have all the screws taken out like you should. If there's a lot of play and it's not pulling off very easy, you want to make sure that you have all your screws taken out of the controller. Those two long ones are going to be what holds it in primarily. And then next is this grip piece. So once again, this I guess right edge, if you're looking from the bottom side of the controller, I kind of just put the side of my finger on it. I want to wrap my hand around every other part of the controller other than the part that I'm taking off, so I don't damage anything. And you kind of just take your hand and pull it off. This is kind of the hardest piece to pull off. It can be kind of awkward getting it off of the controller. It's not too bad. Kind of just pops right off. Once you get that off, then it's pretty much the hard part's over. It's kind of just getting the screws and the tiny parts on the inside now. So once you open it up, you'll notice there's this ribbon cable connecting the battery cage. One mistake that a lot of people make is they won't lift the lever that holds that ribbon cable in. So then they'll pull off the cage, and you don't have to take it out of that slot right away. It should just come right out with it. But they'll try and pull off that battery cage and rip off the actual connector that connects the battery ribbon to the board, and then you just kind of destroy the entire board. There's no coming back from there. So definitely make sure that lever's lifted up before you take the battery compartment off. It'll save you from ruining the controller. I'm just going to make sure I disconnect all the ribbons, and this is the Bluetooth antenna cable, so I'm going to disconnect that connector there, the IPX connector, and then we're going to go to the trigger. So the one thing with the trigger is you're going to want to, well, before I even look at the trigger, I'm going to check the ribbon cables on the ring. I should have done this earlier. Let's go into macro mode here. Take a look at the ring. The ring doesn't look damaged. I don't see any cracks in the ribbon, so this controller is tracking just fine. The customer said it was. I just always double check just in case. So it looks like this controller, yeah, no cracks in the tracking ring or tracking ribbon. That has those infrared LEDs on it. So let's continue on here and take out this trigger. So we're gonna take out the trigger. I always push that little pin through the side that has the ribbon that runs in front of the hole for the pin, if you can see what I mean. And I'll show you here in a second. It should come out pretty easy, especially if you do it from that side. This is the side you want to push from, and it should come out the side where that ribbon isn't going in front of the hole. Because if you push it in, or if you push that pin out from the other side, you can end up damaging that ribbon because you're pushing it into the ribbon. That's right next to that hole where it is. Another place you want to be careful, which I'll go into macro mode here and show you. There's a couple power diodes. If you break one of those off in front of that ribbon there, the tracking will still work. But if you break both of them, they're pretty easy to break if you're not being too careful. If you break both of them, then you will have tracking issues. It will function without one of them though. But I'm going to take both these ribbons off, kind of move everything out of the way, and then we're going to start unscrewing the motherboards. So let's exit macro mode and go back to the motherboard here. I can still show you up close. Taking out these screws. There should be 4 screws for the motherboard. 2 that are around the joystick, and 1 around the edge, or 1 near the edge. But you want to be really careful when taking screws off the motherboard, because if your screwdriver slips or something and you hit a resistor or a diode, you knock off one of those little tiny bits on the board, you're definitely not going to get that back on without a really good micro soldering kit and some expertise. I personally think I would need a pick and place machine, like an actual robot, to put some of those tiny resistors back onto these motherboards. So yeah, if you break one of those little pieces off, it's game over. Luckily, they are pretty tough to break off, except for the ones near the ribbon, like I had mentioned earlier. So let's remove the joystick here and then get the board off. And the motherboard should just come out without, any hassle. It should just kind of come right out. And I'll show you how the joystick connects up. You definitely want to save that spring as long as it's not damaged. That came with the old joystick, so you'll see the spring here. And the spring has a certain orientation. You'll see a little copper pad on the board, and there's a little indent or a part of the spring. There's one side where it touches that pad, and that allows for the capacitive, the capacitance or capacitive touch that it detects whenever your thumb is hovering over the joystick, so it knows that your thumb is touching the joystick. It is a feature that is used in a lot of apps on the Quest, so if you do, or some games use it and stuff, so you want to make sure that's lined up with that pad on the board, so that way you can still have that working. It's not a huge deal if it isn't, if you don't really care about it that much, but I do recommend you have it in the right orientation, so that way your joystick is functioning like it should. And as we get the board back on here, you'll see the spring for the trigger kind of just sits on there. Sometimes that falls off when you're moving the part around. And then the buttons just kind of sit in their respective places. The buttons, if they do fall out of their holes, you'll see a circle and a square on the bottoms of those plastic buttons, and they just line up if you need to put them back in. But anyways, let's go ahead and put the ribbon cables back in, make sure the latches are down, and that they're fully seated. Otherwise, of course, you want to have tracking. So let's push those latches down, put the ribbon cables back in, want to make sure the joystick's latches down, and that you got all the screws back in. It's pretty much just going back in reverse. We'll put all the screws back in, reconnect all the ribbon cables, the IPX, Bluetooth antenna connector, everything else just kind of gets put back together, and should be that pretty simple. So once I get the joystick fairly secure, I like to secure it with the top and the middle screw, and I just leave the bottom two screws off because I can screw those in a little bit later. As long as the joystick's secure in there, I'm going to go ahead and test it before putting the entire controller back together, because sometimes you can get a bad joystick. It just happens sometimes. They're just bad on arrival. So whenever you do order joysticks, make sure you order a couple. They're super cheap if you get them off of AliExpress or Alibaba. But I'll make sure and reconnect the battery cage, throw a battery in there real quick. Just be careful while handling the controller, just to make sure that the joystick is working just fine. And to pair it to the headset, I'm going to press and hold the Y button and the menu button. And as you can see, left controller has been paired. So we'll go ahead and check it here, make sure that there is no stick drift going on. So as you can see, it's paired to the controller. The first thing I like to do is just kind of shake the controller side to side on either side of the ring where each of those two ribbons I showed you earlier would be, just to confirm that I am getting accurate and good tracking and that both the ribbons are connected properly. Usually this is not a problem as long as you follow my repair steps and make sure that those levers are pushed down all the way. We'll go to calibrate, and look at that. Our joystick works just fine. It looks flawless. No stick drift here anymore, and this customer is going to be super happy. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to kind of put the controller back together. It should be pretty simple, but we'll just go through it. I'll walk you through it as you do the repair here. So now I'm going to take that battery out and just put the pieces back on here. So we're going to start with that trigger, of course, again. Well, actually, never mind. So we're going to actually have to take the battery compartment off and then put those last two screws back in the motherboard. I'm going to throw the trigger back on first here. It doesn't really matter. Definitely want to make sure that we're pushing this pin back into the side the same side it came out. Just because, well, you never want to push out the other side, of course, but that way you're not damaging that ribbon. It's just so close to the hole there. You want to be careful with it on the other side. I'll put these last two screws in. Honestly, I think I could make this a training video for future employees as far as how to fix these controllers. I think this is pretty good so far. I think this is a pretty good tutorial. You have to let me know what you think down in the comments below, of course. Let us know. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, fears, whatever you got, let us know. If you got a Quest headset that somehow your dog chewed up the speaker arms on, let us know. We can fix it. We've done it. I've had quite a few of those come in. You'd be surprised. People break everything, right? I mean, I've done it. I've broken my phone before. You always need somebody to fix something, right? But I'm glad I can help share the knowledge and help some of y'all that want to DIY the repair or save a few bucks, fix it on your own. So we're going to put that grip back on. As you can see, it kind of clips on the back there. And then to get the side that goes around the grip button in. It's kind of tough. You got to. I typically use my thumb to lift up the grip piece and put that little hole there that you can see in there, and it kind of just slides in. Then the ring, it's easiest to go about. The side that has the little nub on it goes on first, and it kind of just wraps around. Pretty simple. Throw the battery in, test it real quick, make sure I didn't jostle anything when I put it back together. And it seems like it's fine, so that's good. All right. And let's continue putting the screws in, and then that'll be it. And once again, I'm going to pause here and show you guys. Don't put a screw in either of these two holes. They're not holes. Or these two. Technically, these, I mean, they don't look nearly as much like holes as those ones do, but don't put a screw in there. You will drill a hole into the motherboard. It's happened with our own technicians here, just because, I mean, it looks like a real hole that you could put a screw in, realistically. So, Meta, you should get rid of those holes. Why are they even there? I don't even know. Maybe the manufacturing process requires 2 extra holes that aren't to be used as screw holes for some reason. I don't know. If somebody knows, let us know in the comments below. I'm curious. We've got the these last two screws on top are actually a slightly lighter, slightly lighter silver color. They're slightly shorter, slightly thinner. Technically, they're not a Torx T5. I believe they're like a T4, but the T5 works pretty well on them still. Or no, I think they're a T5H. They're just a slightly different. The Torx T5 still works to screw them in just fine. It doesn't really strip or anything, so I still use the T5 on these. Yeah, just get those back in. Try not to strip the heads of the screws. If you do, of course, it's kind of hard to source them, but you can always send it in to us to get it repaired as well. Or just find some different screws. But yeah, I'm going to throw the plastic plate on just to finish up the repair here. Now I've got all the screws in, the grip, and everything's complete. Throw the joystick on first, of course, and then throw the plate over the top. That's a wrap on today's repair and episode 1 of the Fight to Fix My Oculus repair special. Your Quest controller should now be good as new if you follow this tutorial all the way through. Your support makes the Fight to Fix and Right to Repair possible. And remember that every repair is a step towards a more sustainable tech world. So keep those tools handy and stay tuned for more tech transformations from faulty to flawless. I'll see you next time.